We're calling back to order this session of the Sacramento City Unified School District Board of Education meeting. Item 4.0, broadcast statement by Student Board Member Nguyen.
This meeting of the Sacramento City School Board is being recorded in its entirety and will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse. Today's meeting will air Sunday, March 4th at noon and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. We welcome members of the audience to address the board. Please complete a speaker form located in the back of the community room and give them to our communications representative along with any handouts that you may have for the board prior to the conclusion of the item's presentation. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the board and state your name for the record. Please limit comments during public comment to items that are not on the agenda. If you do comment on an item that is on the agenda, we ask that you please defer your comments until your item comes up on the agenda. Please also turn off your cell phones and place them on silent or vibrate. Thank you.
Thank you, Student Member Nguyen. Item 4.2, tonight's Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Rosemont High School's basketball coach, Hero Marcus Bray. And I know that Board Member Christina Pritchett will also be saying a few words.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Coach Bray, for joining us tonight. What started as a normal afternoon of practice for the boys' varsity basketball team certainly ended in what could have been a tragedy. Senior Khalil Mays collapsed on the court and stopped breathing. In addition to immediately calling 911, head coach Bray, who identified that Khalil did not have a pulse, began administering chest compressions and continued those for 8 to 9 minutes while the ambulance was on the way. When the paramedics arrived, they too had difficulty getting a pulse and took Khalil as quickly as possible to the UCD Medical Center. Khalil's condition was extremely serious, and he was placed on a ventilator for several days while the staff conducted tests to determine the cause of the incident and assess the extent of the damage. Khalil is recovering at home. Well, actually, he's here tonight, so we're happy about that. Adjusting to the defibrillator that has been implanted into his chest. Where it is not for the heroic response by Coach Bray, the outcome of this could have been very different. Khalil's family, as well as Khalil's Rosemont family, could not be more grateful for everything this coach did for a very special young man. Coach Bray is forever a hero to us. Would you like to say a few words?
I'm not sure what to say, but thank you. I appreciate that. The only thing I can think of is make sure everybody gets CPR certified. I can tell you that what I experienced that night also was not what I've had in my training. It's not the same thing. It's completely different than what you go through in training. But other than that, I think it's just very important that regardless of what you do in your profession, that you get CPR certified, because you never know when you're going to have to do something like that. So.
Thank you so much, Coach Bray.
Sorry, I'm not finished. Can I ask that Mohammed, I'm going to get your name wrong, come up here. Mohammed's from Assemblymember Ken Cooley's office, and he has something he'd like to present to you real quick.
You got to get the student in there, please.
also have for you a proclamation from the Supervisor Don Natoli's office for your heroic effort. And then we have a certificate of appreciation from the Sac City Board of Education for you to fill your wall. You want me to hold one? Sure. All right. Maybe have them hold one for you. Oh, one more picture. All right. One more picture. Thank you. Carol, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Coach Bray. And to Khalil, we are so happy that this is a story with a happy ending. With so much bad news, it's wonderful to have something like this come before us. So thank you again. We're moving on to item 5.0, announcement of action taken in closed session.
Yes, Madam President, the board, by votes of 7, majority, all votes by the board, approved 4 resolutions. Resolution 2017-18-C, resolution of non-reelection of probationary certificated employees. Resolution 2017-18-D, resolution of non-reemployment of temporary certificated employees. Resolution 2017-18-E, resolution release of certificated administrators. And Resolution 2017-18-F, resolution of release of classified senior management employees. That concludes the announcements out of closed session, Madam President.
Thank you. Item 6.0, agenda adoption. Before we motion for the agenda adoption, today the Council of Great City Schools has requested the district's immediate action to support a resolution by calling upon the President of the United States and the Congress to take effective and comprehensive measures to protect the nation's school children from the acts of horrendous violence that have occurred, most recently in Florida. Since this is not currently on our agenda and was posted last Friday, we're requesting the board to add item 7.3, resolution number 2992, relating to school shootings in the United States for action. This resolution will directly follow the Safe Schools presentation, item 7.2 by Nina Delgadillo. May I have a motion to add this item?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. We will be adding that as immediately following 7.2. Thank you. 6.0, motion for agenda adoption.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful. We're moving on to special presentations. Item 7.1, approving resolution number 2991, calling for full and fair funding of California's public schools. This resolution will be brought forward by Board Member Wu, who has been working with California School Boards Association on this language.
Thank you, Madam President. I represent this board. I used to represent this board as a delegate to the California School Board Association. Today, the delegates are Member Pritchett, Member Handsome. Today, I serve on the Board of Directors of the California School Board Association. So let me just say, I graduated from Kennedy High School in January 1970. At the time, our public schools were the envy of the nation. California funded schools at $400 per student above the national average. In today's money, roughly $2,600. Today, California provides nearly $2,000 less per pupil than the average state, which ranks us 41st in school funding. California has the 6th largest economy in the world and the highest gross domestic product of any state. We should not rank 41st in any area of significance, much less education. California, and in particular the Sac City Unified School District, has a high need student population with more low-income students than the national average, the most English learners of any state, and troubling opportunity and achievement gaps. Yet, we are attempting to educate this population with some of the worst student support ratios in the country. We can and must do better. The fact that California has the largest GDP in the nation indicates that money is there. The fact that we are 45th in the percentage of revenues devoted to schools shows that the effort is not. California has countless districts and county offices of education that are doing more with less. The state needs to do its part and provide the resources needed to close opportunity and achievement gaps and provide universal, high-quality education. It's true that money won't solve all our problems, but it can help build the foundation needed to prepare every student for the challenges of an increasingly global, complex, and competitive world. Please join me in adopting this resolution calling for full and fair funding of California's public schools. Madam President, I move the adoption of this fair and full funding of California's public schools resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Wu. I will second. All those in favor?
We'll take discussion.
Do we have any questions, comments? The resolution carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Wu. And Board Member Nguyen, we will get this right by the next board meeting with the change to allow for your student vote. Board Member Nguyen, how do you vote on that resolution? Thank you. Item 7.2, the Safe Schools presentation. If we can have Nina Delgadillo come to the front of the room.
Standing.
No, it's good.
Good evening,
Evening.
Board President and Superintendent, members of the board, and community. I'd like to first of all introduce myself, Nina Delgadillo. I'm the Director of the Office of Safe Schools here for the school district. Seated on my far right is Lieutenant Adam Green. He is the Lieutenant of Community Engagement, and it includes the SROs that work for our school district. Seated to his left is Sergeant Chris Taylor, who's going to be leaving us shortly, but he is the sergeant of our SRO unit currently. And seated to my right is Victoria Flores. She's the Director of the Student Support Services, and we will all take part in this presentation today. So first of all, I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for asking me to be here. I think that school safety is such an important issue, and I know all of you share the same feelings. But I think it's important to tell the public and the board members what we're doing here at Sac City Unified to address school safety. So that's what the focus of this presentation is to give you the current information about what we're doing here at Sac City. That would help if it was on. Okay, the overview, the big picture. Since the beginning of 2018, there have been 18 school shootings in the United States. According to the Council of Great City Schools, Americans are 25 times more likely to be killed on the streets of our major cities every day. And this is resounding to us because of what just happened in Florida. The Council also cites that Americans make up about 4.4% of the world's population, but own about 42% of the world's guns. Today, I'll discuss the roles of the SRO unit and my job as a Safe Schools Director. We'd also like to review the Sac City Unified's comprehensive safe school plan and our school safety drills. And I'll also talk about our current ability to respond in a crisis situation. So how are we prepared? Well, we're going to discuss our comprehensive safe school plans in detail. We've had many calls from parents, concerned parents out there that like to know exactly what we're doing, so this is a perfect opportunity for them to see exactly what we're doing step by step. We're going to discuss our emergency management system. It's a unique system that we use here at Sac City that is web-based, and it's called Rapid Responder. And I'll talk about how all of our first responders are interfaced with this system, not just the school district. We'll talk about our school site safety drills, what we do to prepare for all hazards, not just active shooters. We're also going to discuss the types of trainings that we've held here in the district for not only students but staff and employees throughout the district. And we'll also talk about support services, what we do to help people, provide them information in crisis, provide them support. It's kind of an all-around approach to safety. So how do we move forward? We work together as a team to prepare for the possibility of a school shooting and all hazards. So at this time, I'd like to invite Lieutenant Green up to the podium, and he can discuss the roles of the SRO team.
Good evening. Once again, my name is Adam Green. I'm lieutenant in charge of outreach and engagement at the Sacramento Police Department. Part of outreach engagement includes our SRO units or officers, as well as the officers assigned to our magnet academies at some of the high schools throughout the city. I'm going to give you just a very brief overview or kind of some of the general philosophies of our SRO program, and Sergeant Taylor will speak more specifically to the SRO program within the Sac Unified School District. So most importantly, the point that we want to get across is that we see this as a partnership. The Sacramento Police Department has a very strong partnership that we've had for a very long time with the school district, and it's our obligation and our commitment to work hand in hand with the school district to be a part of that community, to be a part of the community on each campus and solve the problems and be truly what our SROs are as part of the problem-solving process when we encounter whether it's something juvenile activity or crime or a threat or something of that nature. Our primary responsibility as SROs and as a police department is public safety. So we are ultimately a part of that puzzle in providing public safety and safety of the students, safety of your staff, and being part of the prevention and intervention strategies for the school district. What our SROs are responsible for when they encounter a crime or a threat is conducting an investigation. And our investigation is simultaneous with that conducted by the school staff or the school district, depending on the situation. We investigate both crimes and threats. Just because we investigate a crime, it doesn't mean that we take punitive action as a police department. Like I said, we have an obligation to be part of a partnership or a joint effort with the school district and with the campuses we work on. So a lot of times what our SROs do is look for a solution, whether it's an arrest or a citation or something within the school district that will provide the best means to make sure that the student gets what they need, whether it's rehabilitation or diverting them to a program that's really going to fit the needs of the circumstance. When we conduct those investigations, one thing that's critical for people to remember is that the police department has an obligation, just like the school district, to maintain protection of the rights and privacy of the people involved in everything we're part of. And that's crucial. So much like the school district, there are laws that prevent us from sharing information, whether it's with the schools or with the public, depending on the situation. Lastly, specifically to school threats, whenever the police department becomes aware of a threat, we obviously are conducting an investigation. And at any point when we recognize that a threat may be credible or pose some threat to public safety or the safety of children on a campus, we immediately communicate that information with the school. Fortunately, we haven't had any extreme situations where we've had to take steps to protect children because of a significant threat, such as an active shooter on our campus. But we're constantly communicating with Nina and the school staff and the school campuses whenever we receive information of that nature. Those are kind of the general philosophies of the police department and the SRO unit. I'll let Chris speak briefly about the SROs within the Sac Unified School District.
Good evening. I'm Chris Taylor, your school resource sergeant. Quite simply, we have 8 officers assigned to the team. 5 are assigned to comprehensive high schools: McClatchy, Kennedy, Burbank, Hiram Johnson, and Rosemont. 1 officer is assigned to American Legion. And then we have 2 officers and myself that are not assigned to specific campuses that rove around the district to handle the needs of campuses that don't have a school resource officer. The 5 officers assigned to the comprehensive high schools generally work 5 days a week. Depending upon the needs of the school, they may work 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. as a general schedule, or 7:30 to 3:30. Rarely do they ever leave on time during basketball season. Most of them are on campus from 7:30 in the morning till 10:30 at night. The 2 officers that rove work a 10-hour shift, and they overlap Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, each of them having either, one of them has Friday off, and the other one has Monday off, generally speaking. So we're able to cover more hours of the day with those 2 officers working 10-hour days. I think that's pretty much the nutshell on it.
Thank you. So now we'll move into our comprehensive safe school plan. This is a plan that I created along with Sergeant Taylor, with input from Homeland Security, Secret Service, many other subject matter experts. And I say that because it takes a lot of different people to come together to provide the best information. You can see, the audience probably can't see this, but in the very small writing on the right-hand side, it says that this is a constant work in progress, and that's because safety is ever evolving. Every time there's a school shooting or a school incident, we are always evaluating what happened, what can we do better, what are some things that we can foresee that potentially might happen here, and how can we avoid those. So it's not just how we react after it happens, it's what we can do in front of it. So if you quickly, I'd like to go through, I want to be cognizant of our time. I want to go through the sections very quickly. Section 1, I'm not sure if everybody in the audience can see, but it's a crisis communication plan and a crisis communication flow chart. And what that speaks to is at the district level, it talks about how we communicate crisis, who reports to whom, how the information gets disseminated. So it's more streamlined. We have our emergency procedures that we discuss, our lockdown, our fire, our bomb threats, our active shooter, chemical incidents, severe weather. So these are all things that we talk about as a systematic approach to safety throughout the district. Every single school site in our district follows this same safety plan for the first 9 sections, and I'll explain why the second part is slightly different. We go into site-level emergency earthquake procedures. That's something that's mandated by Ed Code. We go into site-level identification of sites to see if we have a community shelter, if it's going to be used as a shelter in the event of some type of active nature emergency. We also talk about dangerous student notifications. We are mandated by Ed Code to provide 1 time a year a dangerous student notification to teachers for students that they'll have in their classrooms. We at the district go more than that. We do it twice a year. We're just now ready to roll out the second notification. We also talk about things that we deal with as regards to safety on a daily basis, and then we decided to include these in our safety plan. Our custodial and parent rights. Many of the issues that we deal with at site level have to do a lot more than just active shooters. It has to do with everyday things that happen, right? So we talk about custodial rights and parent rights, mandated child abuse reporting, suicide risk assessment, which Victoria will speak to a little bit, and the missing student protocol, our bullying policies and procedures, our wellness plan, and our district handbook. Now, these are all things that are standard throughout the district. Now, on the right side, you will see the section of the part of the safety plan that is site level. It is different at every site. And it's inherently different because every site is unique, right? So we have our physical and social climate, which is all part of safety. We have our incident command system. Incident command means who's going to do what in an emergency. What are we expecting that person to do, and who we decided is going to do it. Not at the time we have an emergency, that's not the time to decide who's going to do things. We have an emergency phone tree. If we need to have information after hours, if we have a student that's missing or we have an issue, we know exactly how to get a hold of them. The beauty about this comprehensive Safe School Plan and being in rapid responder is that all of our first responders, fire department, police department, and sheriff's department all have access to these documents for every single site in the district. And I can tell you that that's a very unique approach to safety that we've taken. We have a reunification plan. Once we have an incident and we want to reunify children with parents, we have a plan. Every site has a plan of how we plan to do that and how we plan to account for every single child. We have a confidential section for provisions with students with special needs. If we have an extended period of lockdown, as Rockland did about a year ago, if we need to know if there's specific children on site that have special needs, if they take anti-seizure medication and have to take it every 4 hours, and we've been in lockdown for more than 4 hours, first responders need to know that. That information is readily available to fire and police dispatch. School site, and I can go through all of them, but probably one of the most important things that we've added recently is the site map. We've created a site map so that if we have an active shooter on our premises, we can immediately, SWAT can immediately look at our sites and say they're in room 9, and everybody knows instantly where room 9 is. So what is Rapid Responder, our emergency management system? It's a system that we share with the police department, the sheriff's department, and fire department, but we house it here at Sac City Unified. And every one of our safety plans is viewable by dispatch so that they can provide the most accurate and current information immediately to first responders in a crisis. So our emergency drills that we've planned for are very unique to every site level. So they're mandated by Ed Code. At the elementary level, there's 16 drills they have to do a year. It's quite a lot, to be honest, but it's because lower grade levels have a higher, a need for retention, so we do it more often. If you look at the K-8 through middle, it's only 8 drills a year. And if you look at high school, it's only 6 drills a year. So these are drills that we're mandated by Ed Code to perform, and we upload this information that we've done these drills in Rapid Responder. These are some various trainings that we've provided throughout the district. Cyber safety training, how to deal with dangerous people, what to expect when law enforcement arrives, gang awareness, campus monitor, virtual active shooter training. We've done that with Homeland Security. We're doing live exercise trainings. We're doing dangerous, driving for teens, bicycle and safety. So you can see that there's a myriad of different trainings that we've provided to plan and to give people the best tools possible. I'd like to introduce Victoria Flores. We work with her quite often in safety.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm really going to briefly review our mental health crisis team. They're deployed for any occurrence that profoundly impacts the social emotional well-being of the school community. Most typically, this comes with a loss of one of our school community members. We have 51 school social workers and school psychologists who serve on this team on a rotating weekly basis. So every week there is a team on call, and there is a team lead who will work with that principal in consulting on any communication that needs to go out to staff, students, or parents, of course with our communications director. They co-facilitate the staff meeting that's held the morning that the crisis team is going to be on campus so that staff understand what supports are available, what we're communicating to our students in our communities, and also to help support those staff and figure out who needs some help and maybe some tag-in. They also design the Wellness Center activities based on the school needs and, of course, appropriate to the developmental age. This past year, we had 14 crisis responses, and the number I really want to draw your eye to is this year to date, we've had 17, and as of today, that was 18. So it's been a tough year for our community. I know many of you see it and hear it. We also focus, though, not on just our schools, communities, and keeping them safe and helping them get back to baseline. That's what the crisis team is for. But we also are there for our individual students and making sure that they're safe. We have a really long-standing suicide risk assessment procedure that's been in this district for years, predated my coming here. And we have professionals who are trained to assess, to intervene, and to provide postvention for our students who are experiencing suicidal thoughts or ideation. Those include all of our student support center staff, our school social workers, our school nurses, most folks don't always know that, our school counselors, and our school psychologists. And they're busy every day, doing these assessments and really working to keep our students and our families safe. We also, of course, have our student support centers at the school sites and then our district centrally located Connect Center that will provide any case management or postvention. And we work really closely with our Safe School office when there is a student who's at immediate risk, who needs to get to medical care right away. We will work with them to make sure they get there in the safest way possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. So we do have some challenges. We have emergency communication equipment challenges. Safe School Office recognizes that equipment and capabilities vary across the district. We have some old equipment mixed in with new equipment. And frankly, it takes a lot of money to upgrade everything. So there are challenges that we do recognize that we have. We have school phones, intercoms, and camera systems that need to be updated. We've been working on those with grants that we've had available. Those grants have sunsetted. So we do need additional funding for that. Communication protocols should be shared with all programs on site. Everybody should be familiar with their emergency plans and signals used. That includes everything that we're talking about with equipment. Communication to parents during an emergency is critical. We understand that. We realize that timely notifications of lockdowns or evacuations should be made to parents to keep them involved and informed. Tomorrow, in fact, we have a meeting with the police department to evaluate current notification system to see how we can streamline them and improve them to be a quicker response. So our next steps and a recap. Safe Schools and the SRO unit will continue to evaluate all safety policies and procedures to ensure the best possible response to all hazards, to include violent intruders and active shooters. Safe Schools and the SRO unit will continue to seek the most current safety training available from local, state, and federal resources. We work with a lot of our partners, state, federal, and local, to provide funding and training at no cost to the district, and will continue to do so. We'll also continue to create and provide safety trainings to the district staff, students, and community to enhance our preparedness, all of our preparedness, to deal with hazards. So we're all invested in safety. Safe Schools Office and SROs will continue to work alongside school administrators, staff, and community members. We work very closely with almost every department in this district. I'm constantly talking to Victoria, to Stefan Brown, to Nathaniel, to different peoples in all the different departments, because we all really need to work as a team to work towards everything related to safety. We also encourage parents to join their school site safety committees and provide their input. There's part of a process in the comprehensive safe school plans that parents are on the site safety committees, and we encourage that. That's to get their voice, to get students' voice on safety, and it helps us be the best prepared that we can with everybody's input. So I thank you for the opportunity to share this with you.
Thank you, Nina.
You're welcome.
At this time, we'll take questions and comments from the board. Do we have public comment? Frank?
My name is Frank DeYoung from Hollywood Park Elementary. Thank you for your time this evening, President Ryan and Superintendent Aguilar. I have no issues with what they're bringing up. I just have a concern. You might have heard this before. I'm really concerned about the fact when a school is locked down. I hear about it from the news long before I get a phone call from the district telling me what's going on. And one night, when they had a shooting at City College, but all the parents were showing up to get their kids from the after-school program, and we couldn't get to them because the school was locked down. But we didn't know that, so we didn't even know what was going on. So that's the concern I want to bring to you, is that the time it takes to let us know what's going on in our campuses concerns me a little bit, because when I'm hearing it from Channel 3, by the time I get a phone call from the district, the incident's over. So I just want to bring that to your attention. And like I said, I fully support what they're doing. I support the SROs and what they're doing very much. So I just wanted to share that with you, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Frank. Before we take questions and comments from board members, Nina, do you want to respond to the question that Frank has posed around timeliness of notification to families in emergency conditions or lockdowns?
A lot of that may be my fault. I encourage the principals to be proactive in locking down. In the situation he described with City College, the principal created the lockdown based on the activity that was going on. I'm quite certain the principal had no idea what was going on. And we were working through it, trying to figure out what was going on as well. So I don't think there's a simple solution. We can definitely work together to try to figure out a better solution. But there will always be times where the people at the school don't know what's going on, and the police officers are working through it, so that hasn't been communicated, and there will be a bit of a delay because of that. Definitely tomorrow we're getting together to talk about how to improve it, though.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Board Member Hanson.
Thank you very much for a timely presentation. I just have a really simple question. Maybe for the SROs. How do you choose the officers that are going to work on our campuses? Can you tell me what the process is?
So I've been your sergeant for about 6 years, and we've selected probably half the team has gone through rotation during that time. And the one thing that Nina and I look for above all other characteristics is that they love kids. They wouldn't get in front of us as a candidate for school resource officer if they weren't considered to be a good police officer in the first place. But not all good police officers have a true affection for kids. And one of the things that we have seen is that if you have a good police officer who has a true affection for kids, pretty much all the problems that come before them are manageable. They will figure out a way to reach a positive solution when you have those two ingredients. Was that an answer to your question, or were you asking more specifically about?
No, that's a good question. And I guess lastly, how are you going to replace yourself?
I'm not going far. I hit the button this morning applying to be a teacher, so hopefully that works out.
Really?
Wow. Well, what a wonderful thing to hear. Board Member Cochran.
That is indeed wonderful news. Thank you for doing that. Before I ask my question, I would like to thank Nina and the team. I feel very safe, and I know that you are addressing issues and that you are sharp and you are watching constantly, and I really appreciate that. I have a question that really you cannot answer succinctly, but I need input from you. What happened in Florida followed on the heels of multiple reportings that this young individual had problems. And the law enforcement facilities down there, I don't know what their process was. I believe they had good intentions, but it did fall through the cracks. And this person went forward and these terrible events happened. So my question is, and I know it can't be answered succinctly, if you have an idea that you might have a troubled individual and here in Sac City, and you want to report it, how do you make sure that it's addressed? And what are the mechanisms for following through to make sure that the entities that you reported it to really do follow through?
Well, the first thing I would point out is one of the things that Nina's been working to create within the district is a threat assessment team. That includes law enforcement, school psychologists, herself, superintendents or assistant superintendents. And we gather on a periodic basis to discuss those kids who might need additional resources and how we can make sure they are getting the resources that they need. And if it includes going to counseling, are they going to counseling? Can we help them get to counseling? Things like that.
Correct. It's a model that we've been working on actually with the Clark County School District. They're a school district that in demographics is very similar to ours. We've already actually met with them in Las Vegas to look at their program, sit down with them. They've shared everything about their program, and we're in the process of looking at how we can work with that here. Because in most of the mass shootings that you hear about, there's leakage prior to. And it's the leakage and trying to do something to prevent that person from ever walking into our schools that we're trying to do.
So I just have a little bit of a follow-up. Thank you for the answer to that question. This individual was not in school anymore, and I'm wondering if it's reported, for example, to the Sacramento Police Department, how does that get to Nina?
So So that's definitely one of the things we've seen as we've worked on this threat assessment team, as we've worked with other jurisdictions who already have threat assessment teams, as a, it's definitely an area of concern. Once the youth leaves school, they lose coordinated resources. And the thing that happened in Florida where he quit going to school and then exploded has happened in other jurisdictions as well. So it's really a bigger, more global discussion on how to keep mental health resources accessible to kids like that or to adolescents like that.
And so just one last question, and it's just common sense question. If someone has a concern, who do they call?
Well, go ahead, because we all have the same.
To backstep on that as well, let me just I'll answer that question so we don't take up too much time, but there are lots of people to report that to, and that's one of the reasons we really support the SRO program and seeing it as an important partnership, because our SROs are really the first point of contact for students, staff, parents, and members of the district and the school board. So that's really why we encourage that program, because they are the first line level person to be reported to. And it's often on a lot of our campuses, our students, those communities develop a relationship and a sense of trust with those SROs. So a lot of times they feel comfortable going to that particular person. And a lot of times they can report that information to a teacher, and then the teachers share that information either with Nina or ourselves. But additionally, people can just call the police department. It's that simple. There are so many different ways to report this information, and then there are also private or confidential crisis lines if people want to call in for themselves or for a family member. There are numerous ways to report that kind of information.
Thank you. Board Member Pritchett.
Thank you, President Ryan. I have a few questions. Nina, do you feel like we have enough drills at the upper level grades, or that do you feel that maybe we should try implementing more? Because I know that you said that we have as many as ed code says we need, right?
Yes.
Do you feel that that's enough?
Actually, we do more. There are many sites that do more than what's required. And so there is a mandated requirement, which I provide to schools, but many of our schools do more than they're asked to do. Now, the high school levels, they're required for less because they retain the information. And the lower grade levels, they need more repetition. So that's the reason why there's a vast difference between them. But yes, we do have schools throughout the district that do more than what's required.
And you feel that that's enough, though, even the ones that aren't doing the extra drills? Do you feel that what ed code says is enough?
I think so. As long as they're diligent about doing them and they're serious about their commitment to safety, yes, I do.
Okay.
Right.
I have a question for our SROs. I've been on this board for 5 years, and my first couple years on the board, we had more SROs than we have now. And I know, like in my area 3 that I represent, Rosemont and Einstein, we had an SRO that would be at Rosemont primarily, and then we would have one at Einstein that would kind of float in between Einstein and our elementary schools depending on what had happened. And then with some of the cuts, we ended up, the SRO that was at Einstein is now one of your floaters. And so do you think that anytime in the future we may see some increase? I mean, considering the circumstances where people are scared, having the presence of an SRO is kind of needed. It makes our kids feel safe. And we don't have that at our junior high or elementary schools.
So what you're talking about is a higher level discussion between perhaps the superintendent and the chief of police, but I can tell you that when I became the sergeant, we had 13 school resource officers, and today we have 8. We actually went down to 7 for a little while. We had the basic setup at that point in time was a school resource officer at the middle school for each high school, or the feeder school for each high school. And it was a pretty effective model from the perspective that those 2 officers were sort of community police officers for that area of the district. If one of them, if the officer at the high school was out for the day or for whatever reason, training, they had to go to court, something like that, the middle school SRO went over to the high school. At the same time, then if they were both there, we had, as you described, a middle school SRO who could also help with the elementary schools in the area. I have heard from principals that they can specifically tell you when kids have come from a middle school that had a school resource officer versus one that didn't, just based upon the way they assimilate at the high school level and fall into the pattern of getting along and following the rules. One of the things that I saw as a sergeant, and I didn't actually realize I was seeing it until they were gone, was that at the middle school level, those kids developed a relationship and a trust in a police officer that they knew and they could count on being there every day. And they would report crimes to that officer that are not reported anymore. And to be a little more plain with you, there was some victimization of kids that we were able to stop in a huge way and send some pretty bad people to prison for a long time. And we haven't had that occur since we lost those SROs.
Yeah, I can attest to that. Being a community volunteer and being on school sites quite often prior to being on the school board, I've seen the relationships firsthand of the relationship between kids and SROs, and so it was a big hurt for our kids and our schools when those SROs were taken. So maybe I can help push some conversation and put something on the horizon. It would be nice to, maybe get some of them. You said you have 8 now?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe we can look on hopefully increasing those numbers. That would be nice. Thank you for that. Nina, can you tell me a little bit about the communication with parents? Mainly what about Frank DeYoung was talking about. And my main question is this, because you kind of answered his question. My main question is, we have a system. What is our calling system called? It's
Infinite Campus?
Yes. No. Is that the calling system? No.
Well,
is it Connected?
Yes.
Thank you.
Connected.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of.
The system is called Infinite Campus. Connected was a previous system.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
So now it's all called Infinite Campus. Okay.
Right.
Well, regardless. So I know, just speaking to principals or even families, they don't get these calls, right? And sometimes it's not based on like what you explained. Sometimes it's based on numbers for parents change rapidly and they don't update their numbers. So what are we doing as a district to make sure that those numbers are constantly updated? Because we're the ones that are going to get the blame if they don't get the call, even though those numbers weren't updated, right? And it's important for parents to know, like when there's an incident happening.
And that would probably be something in Elliot's wheelhouse as far as, Elliot, can you speak to that?
Yeah, I could say that there are a number of different departments actually that have that focus on trying to keep parent contact information up to date. Our enrollment center, obviously, our technology department also focuses on that as well. It is a challenge for us to keep that information as current as possible on an ongoing basis, and something that we dedicate a tremendous amount of effort to.
Okay. Oh, all right. So I'm assuming that the school sites, yeah.
Okay, was that your final
No,
question?
one last thing, sorry. And then as far as the fencing issues around the school, I know we're talking about, how people can just walk onto campus. I don't expect an answer for this right now. Maybe you can send it to us in a board communication, and we could talk about it later as a board, but talk about what are we doing about the fencing issues around the school and keeping our school sites secured so that way people aren't walking onto the campus. I've been to many school sites where there's an open gate far from the office, and anybody from the neighborhood can just walk right in.
Right.
So.
And I would very much, Board Member Pritchett, appreciate a board communication on that. Last weekend, I was doing a gardening cleanup day for Bret Hart Elementary, and this was one of the questions that came up. And they're actually trying to fundraise as a PTA to be able to come up with the $1,250 to fix a gap in fencing. and that was troubling. So I want to be mindful of time. I know we're well over what we had allotted for this item, but given what's going on at the national level and the importance of having this conversation tonight, I think, it's critical that we hear from each of our board members. I'm very happy that our student board member has a comment or question that she wants to share.
Yeah, so as a student, we go through the lockdown drills and the fire drills, but we trust our teachers to know what to do in those situations. But there was a situation, it was just a drill, but one of the teachers during a lockdown drill went outside because they had mistaken it for a fire drill. So this was a little bit concerning from the student's perspective. So my question is there enough teacher and maybe just awareness about which alarms sound for what? Because I know that there's a series of beeps and stuff, but none of the students know the pattern. So maybe just some awareness about that would be great. In addition, debriefing after the drills isn't something that's usually done. Some teachers mention, hey, we should take this seriously. But beyond that, there isn't a formal communication unless the teachers allotted time for it in their plan. So maybe just some suggestions that might help.
I think it's an absolutely fabulous suggestion. So just so you know, whenever we have situations, we debrief as well. So you're right on point. That's exactly what we should be having. And so one of the things as it goes to communications as well is that, in Section 13 of every safety plan, it tells you exactly what all the communication procedures are specific to that site. So I would invite you as a student, parents, anybody, administrator that wants to go to a site, ask them for Section 13 and take a look at what's in Section 13. Or excuse me, Section 12. 13 is before and after school programs.
I had one last question. We were told that if there was someone on campus that was intruding on the opposite side of campus, we were to run. But how would we know if that was the case?
So it's a good question. I mean, we train run, hide, or fight, or run, hide, and defend. That's how we train. There's a phenomenal video on YouTube that I can share with you after that you can take a look at, and it goes step by step through how we train.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Board Member Wu, followed by Board Member Minnick.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Lieutenant Green, for that great, excellent procedural discussion on our comprehensive plan, and thank you, Sergeant Taylor. I really appreciate Kennedy High School's Officer Tall, although he is not. That was a little joke.
That was a bad joke.
So I noticed, I've heard around the nation that schools are concerned where they have open classrooms like many of our schools have, that in fact the locks lock on the outside rather than the inside. I also noticed that I was on campus Bowling Green yesterday, and I parked in some parking lot, and I walked around. I was free to walk around for half an hour looking for the office on the other side of the campus for Chacon. I ended up on the McCoy side inadvertently, but I walked around for half an hour, and maybe I look familiar, maybe it's this hair, but I don't look like a terrorist. But I was surprised that not a single person stopped me. Mm-hmm. I stopped and asked a teacher who was having physical education out in the field, in fact, where Chacon was. I asked another person who was working on coming out of a classroom carrying equipment where Chacon was, and they just kept pointing way out there, and it was a long ways away. So that's why I was walking on two campuses for half an hour. So I'm going to ask a very difficult question, and that is, well, this is a comprehensive program. We have 77, 78 schools, and we're trying to capture it all. I'm wondering whether or not we have, or should we be doing a site-by-site assessment of each of our schools?
That's a question that we're looking at right now. There's definitely always opportunity to do better and to look at our internal systems to see if they're accurate and if they're doing the job. And so we're always looking at that, but that's something that we are looking at now.
And I know that, and I don't want to interrupt you, but I know that that's every day you and your team are consumed with making sure that the children are safe immediately. And planning kind of goes by the wayside, but it's incorporated into the daily activities. But I'm wondering whether or not your team has either the resources or the budget necessary to do an assessment like that, and if not, might you have a recommendation for our budget committee as we move forward and plan for next year's budget and future budgets?
I think it's a great question. I think it's something that deserves a lot of time with it because there's a lot of different facets. So basically, we have the SRO unit. We have me in the Office of Safe Schools. I'm one person. So having the ability to address a lot of different situations when we're triaging every day is challenging, and that's to speak lightly. So we can always use more resources. We can always use more funding so that we can provide sites with more. It's a larger question.
So by my question, what I'm suggesting is I'm encouraging you to kind of consider breaking down the necessary steps in your mind that would necessitate or in fact execute a site-by-site assessment because that's going to be costly, and then we know that any assessment will come up with recommendations will also be costing further money that at least something be presented through the superintendent, of course, to our budget committee for consideration, and it may be enacted as your comprehensive safety plan suggests. It's a continuous work in progress, but we need to start somewhere if we haven't already done so.
Sure.
And it might be a very good reason to move forward with a bond if we need to do hardware or upgrades for our facilities.
Right. So we used to have grant money. So we had a Secure Our Schools grant. It went very quickly. I mean, you can imagine with 79 schools, we had to make a determination of who needed what first. And that's difficult when you have a large district like we do. So absolutely there's the need.
Thank you, Nina.
Thank
you, Madam President.
Thank you. Board Member Minnick.
Thank you, President Ryan. First, thank you for all the work you're doing. That is you guys have a lot of work, and I don't envy you at all. I do want to thank the officers who were out at the McClatchy Forum and presented with Superintendent Aguilar well into the evening, fielding concerned parents' questions. There was a lot of them, and I think rightfully so. People are concerned, and you stayed late to make sure that everyone was had their questions answered, to the best of your ability. And I really appreciate the amount of time and energy that went into that. I have a couple quick questions. One, the comprehensive school safety plans, are those available on our website for parents to find their school and get access to?
That's a great question. They're not available on a website because it would destroy our ability to effectively keep kids safe. They're available for parents to look at site level. We encourage parents to come to the site to be part of the State Safety Committee, and because that's who adopts the plan. It has to be by committee, and it has to be at site level. But we don't post it for reasons that we don't want to educate the public out there of what are routes that we're going to take. What are our exact plans and emergencies? So no, it's a great question though, because I know that there's a lot of parents out there that are calling and saying, can I see the safety plan? You absolutely can. It just has to be that you have to have a child at the school and that you make arrangements with the site administrator to go through the plan with them.
So they can see it on site, but it can't leave the site.
They can't duplicate it. They can't leave with it.
Okay, that's good to know. Then the other question is, you mentioned to Member Nguyen about the Run, Hide, Fight video. Is that something that would maybe be appropriate for us to have on our district website and then have teachers notified so that they could share that with their students if they feel like that they can use that in their in their preparation as kind of the after the drill kind of scenario?
Right. Sometimes, well, initially that sounds like a great idea. Sometimes seeing a video and not really understanding how we would train with them makes a difference. And so we absolutely could. The video is on YouTube. It's absolutely accessible to everybody out there. We have a link, and they can access it and look at it and use it at site level. We encourage that. It's just that sometimes not having us to be able to interact with them and to explain some things, why and why not, is not as effective. Yeah. Right. So our job is to control the fear and mitigate the risk.
And so one last question, I'm sorry. And so you referenced the communication to parents, and I know that at the McClatchy Forum, there was a lot of questions from parents, a lot of concerns about feeling like they weren't given enough information during a perceived threat or a rumored threat to make an assessment about whether they want to send their kid to school. I understand that there are FERPA laws, and we want to keep children's their identity, confidential. We can't share information. I guess my question is there a way that we as a district communicate to parents and families, communicate to them what it is that we can't communicate, so they understand, they understand what we can't tell them, yes. So that they can kind of appreciate the reasoning behind it? Because I think what happens is we tell them very little because we can't tell them more, but we don't really tell them why, and then people think we're hiding something or that we're not giving them the information they need when we have a very good justification for why we can't share this. Right. And I want to know how we can go about doing that.
So it's a great question. I mean, I'm a parent, I'm a grandparent, and I have that exact same concern. I know exactly how those parents feel when they think that they're living in the dark, right? And so that's why I do what I do. So one of the things I can tell you is the lieutenant and I talk just about every day and every night about different things going on through the district. And we together, craft a message that is acceptable to law enforcement to release. Tomorrow we'll be meeting again to talk about how we can streamline communication, but do it in a more effective manner. So I'm not sure if that exactly speaks to you, if you want to speak to that too.
I think your point is really valid. I think it would suit the school district to put something out, a pre-notification notification now that says, these are the things when we have an emergency to communicate that information. These are the things you're going to be privy to, or these are what messages might look like, and explain the reasoning for holding things back. It is a very difficult line to walk. And sometimes, particularly in this age of social media, what will happen is Nina and I may become aware of something and investigate it and completely diminish any concern for a threat. But what happens in a high school, particularly with social media, is someone tells somebody something and it becomes a game of telephone that spreads on social media. And so when parents find out, they find out a day later after this information has spread through Snapchat and Facebook and all the social media sites, and the story's changed and it elicits some panic again. We put a lot of time into deciding or communicating what needs to go out and what doesn't need to go out, because we walk that fine line of creating panic or fear when there's nothing to be afraid of. And the challenge for us then is when we've decided that there's nothing for anyone to be afraid of or no concerns for the school or for public safety, if that does continue on social media and becomes something else, we have to then catch up and then make a decision at that point to put something out. And sometimes we can't share all the information, and it may seem like we're withholding information, but there's a certain amount of trust that has to occur to know that Nina's been very thorough, the school district has been very thorough, and the police department has been very thorough. But to your original question, I think there's some value in communicating with people early that, hey, when we do have an incident or a threat or a lockdown, this is the kind of information we're going to share, and these are reasons we can't share other types of information.
I appreciate that answer because I think you're right. I think some of that, maybe that preemptive messaging would help. I think people are always going to be upset and feel like they're not getting enough information. It's their kids.
Absolutely.
I know that, like, if I was concerned for my child, I freak out. And so I'm appreciative of people's need for more information. But I think that your point is well taken, that we could do something that's a little bit more preemptive.
And particularly right now, everybody's on edge. When we have these events, people get particularly concerned. The first thing I do on my way to work every day is drop my daughter off at school. And I have the exact same fears that every parent in this room has when I drop my child off, is that there could be something, and something could happen, and there's so much we can control, and I have to have a certain amount of trust in her school and that school district. But we all feel it. We all have those fears and concerns for our children more than anybody else. And but I think you're right. I think some early communication is really valuable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Board Member Minnick. I only have one question of my own on slide number 6 around the comprehensive school safety plan. And this is really as a result of conversations that I've had with principals at my school sites in Area 7. There is a sense that there is a wonderful breadth of information contained within these comprehensive school safety plans. My question is, how are the components of the safety plan implemented, reinforced? Because I have heard that principals feel like they put a lot of time and energy into developing these comprehensive safety plans and aren't sure then that they really have the understanding of how each and every element takes place.
Thank you for asking that question. It is very, it's been a labor of work for the last 4.5 years for me because I realize how much principals have on their plate, and I've tried to do everything I can to help them in developing their plans. So sections 1 through 9 are actually all uploaded by me for every single site. Sections 10 through 19 are site level. And for sections 10 through 19, I also provide them on the U Drive with examples of every single section that they can literally cut and paste and have a good example of what's needed. So I've done everything I think I can to support them, to provide them with the information they need. And then if they have any questions, they come to me and say, is this enough? And after they upload their plans, I go through every school site and every section. And if there's something missing or something that's not addressed, I email that principal back, and you're talking 79 schools, 19 points. That's how thorough.
And is there any potential, Nina, for creating some additional support by linking each of the 19 points to modules, whether they're videos or additional online supports that might, in layman's terms, explain how you would respond in the various scenarios laid out?
Well, I think that what would help more is if we had more access to principals. They have a lot on their plate. To be able to have time with them, to go through trainings with them, is what's going to be beneficial.
Thank you. I appreciate that feedback. I think we have no further questions from the board. I do want to, just in closing out this presentation, thank you for your tireless efforts to keep our students safe. Obviously, when tragedies like the one in Florida occur, we hold our little ones a bit closer, and we hope that we have the best people at the helm of leadership protecting them. And I truly believe, Nina, and for the team as well, that you dedicate yourself to this work day in, day out, and I'm grateful for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to move to item 7.3. This, you'll recall, is the item that we added to hear Resolution 2992 related to school shootings in the United States. I am going to turn it over to Board Member Wu, who is helping to lead some of these conversations.
Thank you, Madam President. I am also this district's representative on the county, on the city council of Great City Schools, And several weeks ago, I was elevated as a member of the board of directors to the executive committee. In reviewing the agenda for the upcoming meeting on March 18th, 19th, and 20th, I asked our executive director, Michael Casserly, if we were going to take up on our agenda the school shootings, and he said absolutely. What came out today was a resolution which will be on the agenda for discussion at that meeting with encouragement to all the Council of Great City School members to adopt that resolution. As we are so timely speaking of school safety today, we are also taking up this resolution, and I have the pleasure of introducing Resolution 2992 relating to school shootings in the United States. I will not read, but we have copies available. I will not read all the whereases, but I will read what I believe are the pertinent whereases. Nina had identified and articulated some of the whereases already in her introduction to her presentation just a little while ago. But I will be summarizing the resolution. So let me begin. Whereas there is a need for the nation's major city school systems to express their positions on school safety matters that affected students and children residing in its cities, and whereas thousands of students have publicly expressed concern for their safety and well-being and have indicated that policymakers should act immediately to protect them in school and beyond. And whereas the leaders of the nation's major city public school systems respect the concerns of their students and support the growing civic and social participation of high school students that was inspired by recent events. And whereas since the school shooting in Columbine, 1999, there have been numerous other school shootings, including those in Red Lake, Minnesota, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Blacksburg, Virginia, Chardon, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, Sandy Hook in Connecticut, and now Broward County, Florida. And these and others have taken scores of young lives. Furthermore, whereas teachers are not trained law enforcement officers and should not be asked or incentivized to keep weapons accessible in their classrooms, and whereas the nation's data collection on gun violence and gun ownership is inadequate to monitor, understand, or prevent these events from happening, and whereas the multiple school shootings that the nation has witnessed over the years have complex causes and requiring multiple solutions. So now, be it resolved that this board stands with the students of Broward County Public Schools and the nation in demanding effective and comprehensive action from the federal government to protect school children, including our school children, teachers, support staff, parents, and others visiting the schools of the district. This board calls on the Congress of the United States to ban the manufacture, sale, purchase, possession, and use of assault weapons and large capacity ammunition cartridges, except those needed by the military and law enforcement, and to require and strengthen universal background checks to possess any type of firearm. This board calls on the President of the United States to charge all agencies of the federal government with the task of reducing the number of gun-related injuries and deaths in America. This board is opposed to arming teachers to protect schools and children. The board calls on Congress to extend the perimeter of gun-free zones and to appropriate adequate new funds to allow school districts across the nation to plan and coordinate school safety and security efforts with law enforcement officials and make other building alterations that may be necessary to protect students, teachers, and staff. To appropriate adequate funds to increase the numbers of counselors, mental health staff, psychologists, and social workers in our schools. To appropriate new funds for programs to educate students and their children on the dangers of firearms. And this board calls on Congress to require that states and the federal government collect whatever data necessary to track, monitor, and understand and prevent the extent of gun violence in America. This last is very important because without data Today, the federal government is barred from collecting data on gun violence. We are a data-driven decision-making body. And so I would urge my colleagues to pass and adopt this resolution. Thank you, President Ryan.
I will motion. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. And actually, no, I want to do this right. We're going to take this vote again. Can I please have our student board members' preferential vote? Aye. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you. So at this time, we are going to move on to item 8.0, public comment. I was given notice that we have a large number of public comments. I believe we have 11 currently, 8 of which are from Hiram Johnson High School. So we're running about an hour behind, and I want to honor our youth voice who have come out tonight to share your thoughts and concerns. If you can please keep your comments to 2 minutes each. And I want to encourage the 8 of you, if there are times where you want to come up as a pair to use your 2 minutes or stand in solidarity, you can do that as well.
Okay. Melody Moe, Christopher Wallace. Now may Chai Pham please come up, along with Connie Steinem, Melina Yang, Olivia Hernandez, Andrea Vasquez. They were listed on one card. Brandon Su, Yu Lao, and Jun Zhang.
Thank you. Do we have a representative who will be speaking on behalf?
Hi, I'm Connie Steinman, and I work at Hiram Johnson High School. I teach American Sign Language, and they want to phase out American Sign Language and Chinese. And in ASL, I teach about 33% of the special ed population, and it really, this language really serves our students, and so does Chinese, because most of our students are, they speak Asian languages, and also for American Sign Language, it's a visual language, and it serves those people who choose a nonverbal language. And the student, it gives them confidence, and they're able to go to the college and become interpreters or work with the deaf or in other fields.
Thank you. Please, we'd love to hear from a student.
Hi, my name is Melina Yang. I am in her class. I am in ASL Level 1. And the reason why they want to take ASL and Chinese away, and they're taking more electives away, is because to give our students more opportunities for AP classes. And I think it's a good thing that our new principal wants to do that, and I think he is really trying to help us. But when he takes ASL away, he takes the ability for us to be comfortable, to be able to express ourselves in a different way. And there's many ways for us to express ourselves, and me and her students, we use sign language to do that. And if that gets taken away, we won't be able to do that anymore. So as well as Chinese, both of our languages, we're not only in there to learn the class, but also know the culture.
Is that all you had to say? I want to be mindful, since you've all come up together, if there's anyone else who would like to close out your comments.
My name is Olivia Hernandez. I'm a freshman at Hiram Johnson. I'm not currently in the class, but I'd like to take it. And now that ASL is going to be taking out of the languages, I won't get the chance to. And that really upsets me, because I know some ASL, and it's like really comfortable for me to sign with my friends. It's actually more comfortable from English for me, and really upsetting that I won't get to learn that at a higher level.
Thank you. This is the first I'm hearing of this issue, and so obviously we will want to gather some additional information and work with your area board member. But I very much appreciate you coming out to make your voices heard this evening.
Good evening. My name is Melody Mo. I am a teacher, Chinese teacher. I have been teaching Chinese for 20 years at Sacramento area. I teach Mandarin at Ham Johnson 2.5 years. I have been teach Cantonese at City College for 14 years. Today, my principal just announced that, and the school side will cut the Chinese program for next coming school year. That means they are only offer level 2 and level 3. After 2 years later, right, the program will be closed down. I am very disappointed. I'm speaking for my students and parents. In 1.5 days, right, I have 247 signatures from students and parents for support to keeping the program. Because there's 5 reasons. First, because the school district have 2 high school offer Chinese program, and Ham Johnson have been offering Chinese program for 21 years already. Second, and then there's 2 Chinese immersion program at our school district, and then right now they are already taking K1 to K. I think they're in K7 already, because they finished the level 6. They're in middle school. There's a lot of needs to keeping students to have a chance to take higher level to learn Chinese program. And then the third reason is because Chinese language, right, is the largest population. People speak the language in the world. There's 1.051 billion people speak Chinese. In California, right, is the second largest popular language in California, even in Sacramento. And then number 4, Ham Johnson's diversity cultures school. I have 35% Chinese students taking my class right now. 20% is Hmong, 25% not Asian, 15% Latino, and 4% is African American, and then 4% is Pacific Islander. So that's not the program, not only for Asian, but also for other people who want to learn Chinese language and culture. They should have a chance to take the language.
Thank you so much. I very much appreciate your comments tonight. And again, to the youth, thank you for being out late on a school night to ensure that we heard you. Board Member Wu.
I just want to thank you, Madam President. I just want to share with my colleagues that when I first came on board 7+ years ago to this body, Hiram Johnson was then losing its Mandarin program as well, and I worked hard with the student body to save it. So that's why they're continuing today. But I'll step aside for Member Cochran and let her lead the discussion.
Member Cochran.
I know that the school has been struggling with what they call the master schedule to be able to offer you all the courses that they want. I have been in the Chinese classroom and I've appreciated it very much, and I'm a strong supporter of languages, both ASL and Chinese. I understand the importance for education. I'm right now writing an email to Principal Garrett Kirkland, going to ask him exactly what the status is and what we can do to save it. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Cochran. Okay, we have some additional public comments.
Yes, Elizabeth Esparza, Josiah Greer, and Dominique Jones.
Okay, I just want to remind everyone to please keep your comments to 2 minutes. When you hear the beep, your time has been elapsed.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Esparza. I'm going to read real fast. And I have been a parent at Bret Harte for the past 10 years, meaning that I have been part of many changes and challenges, like almost having our school closed, or when we had 4 principals in 4 years. I was there last year when my daughters had over 16 subs in 2 months, where we had to demand extra support as it was not given to us automatically. Even though those supports turned out not to be enough, not even close. I have been extremely patient, have tried to help out in many ways, have made my concerns known, advocated for children, our parents, our community, had countless meetings with our principal, but it has all been useless. The school is worse than I ever have seen it in 10 years. I haven't had a teacher conference since December 2016. My daughters was happy last week because she was finally working on her core math since November when the teacher left. Then they're finally doing social studies this week. On February 2nd, somebody advised me to talk to Mr. Nathaniel Browning about some issue I had, and I let him know I had bigger issues to please contact me. I needed to meet him. I needed to show him the documents. There was a lack of response. And in a couple of days later, like a week later, February 13th, there was a couple of incidents. A kid came to me telling me he was sexually harassed by other kids at Slide Park. A couple minutes later, I had to chase a kid with a weapon at Bret Harte. I had to take it away. There was no principal. How are we supposed to do that with the safety? I don't know. I talked to Nathaniel Browning again. I told him, please help me. There's many concerns, but I could take care of them without you. What I need is for my kids to be educated. That's what I need now. Even if I have to go to another 6th grade class, another school, somebody that will get them up to par. And he offered with the same thing that was offered last year, what I said it was not good enough. And after 4 minutes, coming back and forth, he said to me, well, what is it that you want other than the principal to be fired? And that is not what he's there for. How can somebody treat me like that? We say we want parent engagement. We say we want the kids safe, and I don't see it. So I came here to tell you guys that I will be filing a uniform complaint. It doesn't, and none of these, and none of this, and none of this. There's a lot of discrepancies. When you guys try to close us, not all of you guys in particular, but when we try to close us, I did that research that came out why we saved Bret Harte. I did not save Bret Harte for this to happen. It's been the worst in 10 years, and this is not even an eighth of what is going on in that school. So I plead with you. I come here so you guys could all know, and so these cameras have proof. I have proof that I have told you. You guys want to save schools. What happened in Florida was a lot of discrepancies. I have talked to Janet. I have called Nina Delgadillo's office. I've called Human Resource, the Parent Center. I mean, anybody that could talk to me. I will be emailing you guys. I just wanted you guys to see a face to that email. And I will. I'm a Sac State student. I just graduated about 3 years ago, a little bit over 3 years. I'm 41 years old. But there I learned the injustices that happen here. And I'm willing to volunteer my research. I told that to Nathaniel as well. So I plead with you. And do never, ever treat me like that again, because I have told Mr. Tucker, I have told Ms. Carrillo, I have told Mr. Chapa, and I've said here to the members, I understand your job is difficult. But if you can't do it, you need to get off of that chair. And that goes for Mr. Tucker. That goes for everyone here. And that goes from just anybody that works around our kids. So thank you. And sorry that I went over.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it.
Josiah Greer, Dominique Jones, and then one more about Hiram Johnson, Mr. Ulor.
Good evening. My name is Josiah Greer. I'm a board member of the Black Youth Leadership Project. I'm also the admissions and outreach counselor at Sacramento State University. I'm coming here today with some concern in regards to the students that have been mistreated in this district, the Black students. I know that right now it's a very popular subject to talk about the safety, the physical safety of our students, with the violence that have gone on in our community. However, there students that have been going through these issues since this district was founded. This district was founded in 1854. In 1854, I was not even allowed to walk in this building because I was Black. Right? In 1854, I probably would have been murdered for even trying to get into this building. So that means that this specific district was founded on racism, right? So I really want to stress the issue that our students are really going through issues that don't get me wrong, it is important to talk about the safety and violence that are going on in the communities, but we need to also do not forget about our Black students. As a person that graduated from a continuation high school, I was the first in my school's history to go straight to a four-year university, but growing up, and I was told that I was not smart enough to go to a four-year university, and that wasn't because I was dumb. It was just because I didn't see people that looked like me in the classrooms. I'm 27 years old, and I've never, ever had a Black male teacher in my entire life. That's high school, that's middle school, that's college, that's 4 different high schools, 4 different elementary schools. So what I'm saying is that there is an issue that we need to fix. We need to get Black people hired in the community. We also need to go out and do a better job in making sure that our students are safe, our Black students. So I did hear that you all said that this is a data-driven board. So I want to know, what data do you have to show that you are supporting our African-American students in your classrooms? Because that's very, very important. The Black Youth Leadership Project is hosting a legislative open house where we are teaching students about public policy, how to create public policy, what's being done, what is that process like. So we're doing our job, but we also need you all to do your jobs as well too, and put the pressure on these high school teachers and make sure that they are adequately serving our high school students. Thank you so much.
We would love to get your contact information. We're currently trying to bring together a group of community leaders to tackle just this issue, and it sounds like you would have an outstanding perspective to offer. So can you please make sure that we get a way to get a hold of you over to Maria so that we can follow up?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Maria, if you will get both the name and organization, please. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dominique Jones, and I'm a board member with the Black Youth Leadership Project and also a Capitol staffer. So I actually didn't attend this meeting with the intention of speaking, but while I was sitting there in my seat, there was a comment made that made me feel very unsettled. One of your board members said that he was allowed to walk around the campus because he didn't look like a terrorist. Well, please explain to me. Oh, actually, let me pose a question to the board. What does a terrorist look like? It's that exact type of implicit bias that allows campus climates to be so hostile towards students. I would like to pose another question to the board. Are you truly dedicated to improving the campus climate for your Black students? Are you truly? Beyond the high-level quotes in the SACB articles, when you get out of these seats, are you truly dedicated? The racist project that was allowed to be displayed at C.K. McClatchy High School was appalling and disappointing, but not shocking. You all need to do a better job of protecting your Black students. We will be looking forward to see what type of efforts and initiatives are actually taken to improve campus climate throughout the schools here in Sacramento. And as my colleague mentioned, Black Youth Leadership Project is hosting our annual legislative open house happening on March 16th. We are here in the back. We have flyers. We invite students. It's free of charge. So we hope that if you are truly dedicated, you will spread the word to your students, that they come in, they learn what a bill process is like, how to advocate for issues that they are passionate about. So I want to end with this. We need to make sure that as we're saying, we're doing all these great things, we're definitely committed, that also the high-level people sitting here are saying things that are appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll make sure to get the March 16th information out to our students, and I'm going to try and see if my calendar allows for me to attend as well.
Thank you, members of the board, for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Yu Lor, and I'm a teacher at Hiram Johnson. I want to bring to the board's attention a recent plan to remove and eliminate 2 foreign languages out of our 4 at Johnson, and those are Chinese and American Sign Language. I find that this plan is problematic on many levels. First, it was not a shared decision-making process. Students weren't consulted, and teachers were not informed of this. It serves a significant subpopulation of Johnson students. Asians take the Chinese language classes, our Asian American students, and then our special ed students also take ASL. I find it's contradictory to the goal of our school's SIPSA, which states that it's going to increase the number of students on track to graduate and career ready. It's also contradictory to the Sac City's core value, which says that we recognize that our system is inequitable. By design, and we vigilantly work to confront and interrupt inequities that exist to level the playing field and provide opportunities for everyone to learn, grow, and reach their greatness. It's contradictory to the Sac City's equity and access guiding principle, which states that all students are given an equal opportunity to graduate with the greatest number of post-secondary choices from the widest array of options. Members of the board, how can we increase college and career readiness? How can we provide opportunities? How can we give students an equal opportunity when we take from their education? If the rationale for eliminating Chinese and ASL is to increase AP courses for foreign languages, wouldn't that be a little challenging if you only had one teacher to teach AP, French 1, 2, 3, 4, and AP? If the rationale is because French and Spanish are Romance languages and that makes it easier to collaborate, let me ask you this question. When did the district move towards a policy of ease when determining the education and the future of our students? The argument is also that this is going to make Johnson like Davis and Elk Grove, but this is misinformed and from a deficit perspective. We are warriors. We're strong. Leaders need to utilize and nurture who we are and not mold us into somebody else. I ask the board to take up this issue, this item as an issue of discussion, and reverse the current plan that is in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have other public comments?
No further on this item. We do have 3 on the next item.
We are moving on to item 9.0, Board Workshop Strategic Plan and Other Initiatives. 9.1, approve the 2018-2019 Traditional School Attendance Calendar.
Good evening, board members, Board President Ryan, members of the board, Superintendent Aguilar. My name is Concy McCarn, Chief Human Resource Officer, and I'm joined by Dr. Iris Taylor, the Chief Academic Officer. We have before you for consideration the 2018 and 19 traditional school calendar, which is developed by through multiple conversations driven by a variety of things. And we realize that it's important that the community, the parents, families, and staff are able to know what the calendar is for the upcoming year. This calendar that we are proposing for the 18-19 school year is similar to this year in that it would start Thursday, August 30th, the Thursday before Labor Day. With regards to this calendar, while we recognize that it is similar to last year, we also want to make a commitment and to ensure that we're working towards a couple of things. One of those being a multi-year calendar so that we are able to, as a district, plan and provide over a series of years so that it's not March when we're learning of the next calendar. In addition to a multi-year calendar, and we look forward to bringing that back to you soon, 1920, 2021. We are purposely thinking through this particular series, as was stated in the framework assigned earlier, that one of the major underlying goals is to offer opportunities and enrichments for students to attend local IHEs. That, amongst a number of other reasons, are going to be driving this. So Dr. Taylor is going to talk specifically about what some of those enrichment opportunities are.
Good evening, Board President Ryan, members of the board, Superintendent Aguilar. One of the main enrichment opportunities that a revision to the school calendar can provide is displayed on this particular slide. And what you see is just a number of courses that are offered at Sacramento City College that are aligned to the linked learning or the career technical education pathways that are offered within the district. These are courses that our students would be eligible to take that would, again, enrich their experiences within CTE or career technical education courses, potentially give them opportunities to earn certificates. But as you can see, these classes begin June 11th, 2018, and our school calendar this year doesn't end until June June 15th. So again, just a reason to rethink when classes start in Sacramento and when they end, because of the opportunities that can be afforded our students. In addition to enrichment opportunities, we also would like to explore changing the attendance calendar so that semester breaks are aligned to our colleges and universities as well. So our students end in December at the high school level, they break and they come back for a fresh start in January. We also see this as a way of increasing student enrollment and retention. Our students would understand when school would be starting at an earlier date and lessen the likelihood of those students enrolling in other school districts. And another compelling reason is just the standardized testing window and having our students have the greatest amount of learning and instructional time prior to taking standardized assessment, whether those be state assessments or things like AP exams. We believe this will also increase our ability to recruit from a wider range and a stronger pool of teacher candidates and align with surrounding districts. And then again, aligning our calendar with those of surrounding districts and starting at a similar time.
And so in this, we also want to thank all of our labor partners. All 5 of our partners have been very supportive in working with us through the calendar, being able to bring this to you tonight for consideration and working towards a goal of bringing something the following 2 years to you by the end of the school year. So with that, we're happy to take questions about the recommendation.
Before we move to board questions, do we have any public comment?
Yes, we have 3 members, Richard Owen, Ian Arnold, and Alan Duarte. Please come up.
Good evening, board members and Superintendent Aguilar. Nice to see all of you. Before I comment on this calendar, I would like to take an opportunity to say that I applaud the board for the excellent questions that you asked during the Safe Schools presentation. Member Pritchett and Member Wu, I especially applaud your comments because I can walk into any school today and walk right through the front door without anybody knowing me. I could be carrying a weapon. And I would urge you to hire a consultant to do that school-by-school analysis. Some of the PA systems, students can't hear it. I've done drills where parents and students were left out in the field doing an emergency drill. It's an urgent matter. God forbid we have such a shooting in our city. And I'd hate to be you if we didn't put this high on the list and get it done now. Let me also say with regard to this traditional calendar, we've been trying to do this for over 25 years in this district, and it's high time to get this approved. When we were doing the E21 high school reform effort and built the new small schools, there was an effort to do this kind of calendar then. It's important because many of our kids could actually leave high school with a community college degree and a high school diploma, which would put them way ahead, save them a lot of money, and that's a very important thing to do. There's also opportunities for just general concurrent enrollment with community colleges. Let me also cite something else that's not in the presentation. That is, many of our students in this district miss out on internships and job opportunities because they get out of school too late, and by the time they get out of school, there are no jobs left. So I really urge you to move forward on this. It would be a giant step forward toward implementing the superintendent's vision for high school graduation and beyond. Thank you.
Good evening, Vice President Wu, Superintendent Aguilar, board members, Ian Arnold, SEIU Local 1021. As long as I've been working with Sacramento City Unified School District, it has never failed to amaze me that we have our kids studying for finals and then we have Christmas break and then they come back and we expect them to do as well as all the other kids have done prior to the break. It's also a problem for at least those employees who don't live in the district boundaries, who are trying to figure out their childcare arrangements while they're coming to class or while they're coming to school, but all the surrounding schools are out. It's high time that we made this change. I fully support it. But more than that, I support the fact that the district is coming to us, the labor partners, in advance and not making a quick jump, because frankly, there are a lot of things that we need to think about in advance. When we foreshorten the summer, deep cleaning has to happen. A lot of maintenance that would happen otherwise can't happen if we have the schools close for too short a time. And obviously, we're going to work with the HR folks on that. But we really do appreciate the advance notice and the fact that we're moving forward incrementally, and the future of multi-year calendars coming out and the ability to work together well in advance. Thanks.
You can reset the clock so he has his full time. Great.
I'm Alan Dory. I'm a business agent with Teamsters Union. I represent both the plant managers here and also the Teamsters Classified Supervisor Bargaining Groups. So the change that this school district is looking at tonight, we're definitely supporting it. Retention of students in this district is really important for not only the students to have a great education, but for the financial viability of this district. There's nothing that probably affects us more than to have a declining enrollment. And so we want to make sure that we serve the children. That's our top focus. And as Teamsters, we look at ourselves as partners, true partners with the district at reaching that goal. One of the things that I really would like to point out to you, it's a great reason why you should adopt this calendar, is the finals. And I know when I was in school, wasn't in this district, it was in Southern Cal, I didn't have to worry about having a couple weeks off and then taking finals. Because I tell you what, if I did, I wouldn't be standing here today. I wouldn't have studied. And probably most of you wouldn't have either. Or maybe you'd been a little bit more aggressive. We don't want to just represent the kids that are the cream of the crop. We want the rest of the kids to have a chance to rise to that top with them. And, those good grades, they affect whether you can get into the right colleges. They affect whether you can get scholarships. They affect your whole future. So if you don't study because you're gone for a couple of weeks, that impacts your future. And this is a great way for our kids to do better without having to dumb down the test to get better grades. And they'll actually learn and study and be effective. The other thing is summertime. Our kids are getting out after all the other kids do. The summer job's already taken. What parent doesn't want their kids to start learning how to work and earn some of their college money? God, I'm still paying off my daughter's college daddy fund. And I bet you a lot of other parents are too with their children. So we definitely support this. And again, we're proud to be partners with the district and work collaboratively with the district staff. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other public comments? We'll take board member comments at this time. Board member Minnick.
Thank you. So thanks for bringing this to us. Clearly from the comments we've heard, there's a lot of support and the idea of adjusting this calendar to align more with our neighboring districts. I will say I'm disappointed that we're not at that point now. I feel like this, I'm hoping this is the very last time that we approve this calendar that starts at, almost in September, because I've seen how this is an issue, and I appreciate that you highlighting the connection with the community colleges and how those align. I know, so my daughter did not she attends high school in the district. She did not attend a class last summer that she really wanted to, but because there was that week and a half overlap of the class with the finals at her high school. I teach at City College, and I teach a lot of kids that are also high school students in our district, and that's difficult for them during the school year. And I know having the opportunity to take a summer class and have it not affect their school year would be huge. And even that week and a half or 2 weeks overlap is, can be the decider for them. So I appreciate that. And so, I'm disappointed that we're at this point and we're approving this, but I also know that people are planning their vacations and they're planning when their kids are going to be back in school, and we need to give them that now so they can make those plans. So thank you.
Board Member Hanson.
This is way, way past due. I mean, I barely even want to vote yes for this because this is, it's still not the start dates that we should be at. And we've discussed this for years, and we are not putting students first. We're putting the adults first who have sat on their hands and not made the decision that we needed to make on this. So I would hope that if we're going to get a 2-year calendar in June is going to be brought to us for the next 2 years, that I'd like a progress update next month to let us know if we're on track to get that done. And if it's not, I want to know why, and so we can apply the proper pressure to make sure that we get a decision and we do the right thing by our students. I know all of us have tried very hard, but it's not just our decision to make. But I don't think the community is going to stand for it any longer. We are impacting students' scores, their academic excellence, their ability to have jobs, to do community colleges, we're impacting our bottom line because we're not aligned with other calendars and people are moving their students to other districts, so we're actually losing dollars. And I just answered another parent today who didn't even know when the school year was starting because obviously I haven't made the decision till tonight. So it's tragic that we're in this position. I hate being a broken record on this, but I need to say it again out loud for all the people that are listening. We're going to fix it this time. So put the students first, not the adults first.
Thank you, Board Member Hanson. We're now going to hear from Student Board Member Nguyen.
Yeah, as many people have mentioned, the students are really affected by the September or late August start date. Just one example is one of the AP classes, AP World. We start 3 weeks later than many of the other districts. So on top of the general book that all the AP class has to read, we have to do 3 chapters. So that's 30 pages each worth of notes during summer break. So many students procrastinate, and that's like kind of our fault. But that all adds up, and it takes up the time. In addition, the teacher's perspective, I had a teacher talking to me about this. They spend their Christmas break or winter break preparing for finals, and then after finals they prepare for the grading and releasing the grades and then correcting the grades, and then as soon as that ends they have to prepare for the start of the new semester, and that takes a toll on the teachers as well, so they really appreciate the actual break that I believe many of the students would love. So thank you for moving towards a new change for hopefully not this year but the next year. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Student Board Member Nguyen. Your comments tonight have been so insightful, and I appreciate being able to hear that student perspective. Our final board member comment is from Board Member Cochran.
Thank you. I'll be fast. Thank you for your work. How will you disseminate this information? I have had a lot of people ask about it. E-connections?
Yes, I mean, in addition to blasting it and putting it on the website, absolutely. We've had a lot of inquiries as well, parents wanting to know when school is going to start, so we will use all methods to get the new calendar out once you approve.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We appreciate your efforts and look forward to, beyond the adoption of this calendar, aligning our calendar with neighboring districts and making that student-centered change moving forward. With that, I'm going to ask for the student preferential vote. Do I have a motion?
I move it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful. Motion carries. Thank you. Well, I got it.
It's okay. We'll forgive you. Move the consent.
We have a motion to move the consent agenda. We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item 11.0, communications. Item 11.1, employee organizational reports, SCTA.
Good evening. David Fisher, President of the Sacramento City Teachers Association. As we get ready to our final push towards, I guess, around the last third of the school year, we've got a number of productive efforts underway with the district. First, I'm extremely excited to report that we have successfully piloted a new curriculum for the English Language Arts, English Language Development. On Monday of this week, after more than 10 months of work, the ELD Adoption Committee decided on the ELA curriculum for the implementation of the 2018-19 school year. I assume that it'll be presented at the next board meeting. This is an enormous gap to fill, and we appreciate the leadership of Iris Taylor, Matt Turkey, and the academic office team led by Denise Leograndis, who worked with approximately 60 SCTA members to reach this critical decision. Second, we are urging the district to re-engage around the implementation of a bottom-up, site-driven restorative practices culture, and if done properly, should reduce the time students may be out of the classroom and create a better climate of learning. Toward that end, we have also proposed the district work together to do much more comprehensive work on school safety. It's great to hear the conversation tonight. Certainly not by arming teachers, but by examining the whole range of factors that go into school safety, physical plant issues, safety protocols, also professional supports like psychologists, social workers, school nurses, and mental health support. We have also proposed a more active intervention at CK McClatchy, including review of the admissions to the district's specialty programs, including HISP, also digging deeper into the issues that have persisted at McClatchy for several years. We are also proud that Sac City was one of the first school districts in the state to become a safe haven school district. With the ICE raids unfortunately happening and with the tragedy in Parkland bringing a variety of complex issues to the fore, let's use this opportunity to make Sac City the national leader on creating a safe and healthy educational environment for all students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. SEIU. I think we lost Ian. TCS.
Well, you got me twice, but you're really going to have me once. So I represent, again, both the Plant Managers Bargaining Group and the former Classified Supervisors Association, which is now the Teamsters Classified Supervisors. I just want to sit there and say thank you for all the hard work the district's been doing for the community, for the students, and also for the collaboration that we've enjoyed with the district. As a union leader, I can work with people that don't always agree with me. In fact, that happens a lot. The people that tell me what I want to hear and can't keep their word, I can't work with. And I've worked with Concy and Ted and Cindy Nguyen, and there's a lot of integrity there. There's a lot of trust, and we can go through things in a very, very brief time that otherwise would take a lot more time or maybe never get resolved. The other thing is that it's good to be listened to, whether they agree or not, and that was very clear in both negotiations for the Teamsters Plant Managers and for the Classified Supervisor Teamsters. So I just want to thank the district. It's a good direction, and every time I come out here, by the way, when I see all the safe haven for everyone, I just feel very warm. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. We so appreciate your feedback. Now we have UPE. And I think our UPE representative also left. So item 11.2, District Parent Advisory Committees, Community Advisory Committee. District English Learner Advisory Committee. Local Control Accountability Plan Parent Advisory Committee. Frank is representing.
Oh, good evening once again. The LCAP met on Tuesday night, and we discussed several items. One was the proposed K through 12 English language art curriculum that's up to be considered, and we were made aware of the display that they have upstairs in the second floor reception area, and they invited us to view and provide comments, and so we were made aware that they will be up there until March 15th, and so the LCAP will take a look at that. We also went over the uniform complaint process. The LCAP committee had a few questions about that, especially around bullying and what the process is and how that works. And we asked for district staff to come back and go over in more detail about the process for how complaints are handled. We also did we had a chance to look at the Riverside County Office of Education dashboard, where they've taken the state dashboard and the information in the state dashboard, and the numbers are all the same, but they show it a little differently. Actually, we liked it a lot better because it really gives us a better idea if you're going in the right direction or not. It was very interesting, and we talked about that for quite a bit. Some of the highlighted issues that we talked about, we went over the LCAP annual update. We went over the new form that they're going to be using. They asked the departments and the programs to fill out. One of the things the LCAP really wants to see is if they're not spending their projected number, they should be telling us why. And if they're overspending their projected number, we would like to see them tell us why. And the number we came up with was like, if it's 10% more or less, then there's a box there for them, and we would like them to explain why, because some of them had really large, we saw the spreadsheet, and some of them have there was one item that was like $2 million more than what the projection was, and we're going, okay, we just want to know why. We're not saying it's wrong, we just would like to know what caused it to be like that. Or why aren't you spending the money on a particular program? The other issues that came up with were a little concerned about not enough is being done to look at return on investments, meaning that we're spending money on programs. Are we really getting the outcome that we want from them? The one that stood out to us, of course, is suspensions, because a lot of money is being spent on restorative justice, and yet suspension rates don't seem to be getting any better. So the question is, why is that happening? Is it the program? Is it just something's not being implemented? We don't know, but we were kind of asking that question. We also were talking about that we need specific actions and services to support African American students in the LCAP. There is a need, especially around reading at grade level. There was concerns about that. And we asked wondering why the funds for attendance grants are unspent. We thought attendance was important for the district, so how can they be unspent? We were curious about that, and I think I'll quit there because we could go on and on with a few of these things, but those are kind of the important ones. I don't want to tie you up too long.
Thank you, Frank, and I appreciate the hard work that you put in volunteering for the district.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Item 11.3, Superintendent's Report.
Thank you, President Ryan, and good morning to, good morning. Wow. Sorry.
It feels like a very, very long night. It's only 8:15.
Good evening, everyone. I want to begin by thanking all of the schools and our board and community members who are participating in tomorrow's National Read Across America, which is March 2nd. Obviously, the day celebrates reading and literacy and the birthday of Dr. Seuss, who would have been 114 years old tomorrow. I know that Tahoe Elementary started their celebration a bit earlier this week, and we're joined by Board President Ryan and Member Cochran. I joined members Minnick and Wu at Bowling Green Chacon yesterday to help students celebrate this fun event. I read to a very special kindergarten class. Juan Felipe Herrera's book, Los Meros Meros Remateros, reminded me of Denials, which I just visited with my family recently, a local swap meet. Members Vang, I know Member Vang will be at Parkway Elementary tomorrow, and members Hanson and Pritchett will also visit their schools. We're also continuing to make progress on our teacher recruitment efforts in collaboration with our labor partner, the Sacramento City Teachers Association. We do have an open contract recruitment event next Wednesday, March 7th at 3:30 here at the Cerna Center. And on that note, I encourage everyone to visit our Facebook page and share the promotional video we posted today to help drive up interest in our recruitment efforts. The video was created with the help of SCTA, and I'd like to thank them as well as the 6 teachers and 1 school psychologist who spoke in the video as district ambassadors. They include Nafessa Young, one of our school psychologists, Ricardo Martinez, a 4th grade teacher at Bowling Green, Chacon, Chandler Crook, a teacher at John Sloat, Sal Vu, a kindergarten teacher at Susan B. Anthony, Fernando Rodriguez, a teacher at Hiram Johnson, Mary Rodriguez, a teacher at Hiram Johnson as well, Dominic Williams, an ethnic studies teacher at McClatchy. I want to thank them for sharing with the world the value of teaching at Sac City, and I hope that we will have a room filled with candidates. Also want to just let our community know that our review of district specialty programs continues, and we will have a follow-up forum at McClatchy on March 12th at 5:30, which we'd like to invite everyone to join us. I do want to thank everyone who attended the last community forum earlier, a couple of weeks ago. We had approximately 300 community members attend that forum, and we appreciate the participation and candor of all of the individuals that attended. I obviously want to continue to emphasize that the use of racially offensive language in any of our schools, no matter how it is framed, does not reflect the values of this school district, our Board of Education, and that will not be tolerated. I felt that Mayor Steinberg put it best when he told everyone that this is not just a school district issue, this is a city issue as well. And we should feel very fortunate that we operate in a city that feels that way. Finally, I'd like to talk about school safety. It was a topic of today's board presentation, and it's been on our minds recently. I do want to remind our students and community of how critical it is to report immediately to law enforcement any threat or suspected threat. The police chief and I met earlier today, and he assured me that each reported threat will be taken seriously and investigated. So if you see something or you hear something, do report it immediately. I also want to let our community know that we are fully aware of a nationwide campaign to organize a planned 17-minute student walkout around the issue of gun violence and school safety on March 14th. We did send a letter to all of our families today, and these walkouts are being organized across the country. We are working with a number of our partners, including the City of Sacramento. As I said today, I met with the Chief of Police, other community-based organizations, labor partners as well, to encourage students to express their views on that day in a coordinated manner and at their school site so we can maintain a safe learning environment, which is our top priority, obviously. So we will keep you informed of any district-sponsored actions we plan for the 14th. Finally, I want to remind you to be safe during the upcoming storms and what we're seeing already. Schools obviously will be open unless otherwise notified, so please drive, walk, and cycle safely. Keep an eye out for others and stay warm and dry. Thank you, President Ryan.
Thank you, Superintendent Aguilar. Item 11.4, President's Report. I want to begin my report by just acknowledging that there is right now a tremendous amount of fear, angst, and sadness within our community. I am hearing from parents and children who feel like they are being traumatized and re-traumatized by a series of very tragic events. I think we've talked about the reality that the situation at McClatchy has uncovered, brought to the forefront, and painfully began a dialogue that many have been grappling with for a very long time around racism and the racist undercurrents that exist in so many facets of the Sacramento area, despite the beautiful diversity that exists within the city. We also know that with the tragic shooting, we have children contemplating what they would do in a similar situation, which no child should have to contemplate. With more recently, the ICE detentions that occurred all over Northern California over the course of the weekend, we have families once again fearing that they will be torn apart. And as we talk tonight about how we build safe schools and safe communities, we have to recognize that you do not build safety nets for families, safe communities, if you tear families apart. And unfortunately, right here in our own school district, we know that we have families suffering from the ICE detentions that occurred over the course of the last week. This, I think, also leads us to renewed energy and sense that we must take action and have a cause for hope. For me, what gives me hope is that we have a board and a superintendent that are leaning into the conversations around implicit bias, that are recognizing that we cannot stop at the actions of one individual. We need to uncover where the breakages are for Black students achieving at every level, TK through college. We also recognize that with the gun safety issues that have come to the forefront, we have youth-led movement and voice that is being elevated in unprecedented and inspiring ways. And with the recent action around ICE detentions, we have a commitment to utilizing Safe Haven as a vehicle for truly offering welcome, inclusive spaces free from the fear of deportation. And we'll be taking steps to expand that initiative to establish more coordinated efforts with our city and county partners to meet the needs of students and families every step of the way. I want to end just by mentioning that today marks the beginning of Women's History Month. When we sat here and made the vote to include ethnic studies as a graduation requirement, said that to know history is to know thyself, right? And we know that history is often not representative of her story. And so this idea that as we enter Women's History Month, we should be talking about the fact that in 2018, women still earn less than male counterparts in many professions. Women are still underrepresented in the most elite careers, including CEOs, including elected offices, including key appointments in government. And we know that women are also far more likely to be victims of violence. And so these are conversations that we should be embracing in our classrooms, in our district, as we buck these odds. I'm happy to say that I'm sitting on the board of the California Center's project to elevate women in politics. And in May, we will be hosting our first conference, which will include scholarships to students at each of our high schools within Sacramento City. Youth will have an opportunity over a 2-day experience, young women to build sisterhood and develop an understanding of purpose and contributing to public service. So I'm very excited about that and look forward to working with my fellow board members to ensure representation from each and every one of our high schools. And we don't want traditional female leaders. We want to elevate youth voice of young women who often aren't told that they look like leaders, giving them a forum and a space to explore potential opportunities that they might not access otherwise. With that, item 11.5, student member report.
On behalf of the juniors in SCUSD, I'd like to thank the board for deciding to pay for the SAT that will be occurring in April. Personally, for our school, the freshmen who won't be taking the test are going on a trip to UC Davis. The sophomores will be going to Sac State. The juniors are taking the test, and they haven't figured out what to do with us yet. But it's an amazing opportunity that opens a whole bunch of doors for all of the students who haven't had the chance to go to UC or wouldn't be able to take this test or haven't considered taking it. So just thank you so much. Not much has happened otherwise, but just thank you.
Thank you, Student Board Member Nguyen. Item 11.6, information sharing by board members. Do we have any board members who would like to share? We have several. First, Board Member Pritchett.
Thank you. I'll make mine quick. If you've sat on this board or been in this room before, you've probably, or talked to me personally, you've probably heard me asking about the AED machines, the automatic defibrillators that I'm constantly asking about. And in light of what happened at Rosemont that you heard about earlier in this board meeting, I've been asking even more. And I'm pleased to share with everyone that as of today, I heard that our AED machines will be rolled out to all of our school sites, along with training. And they'll be at our 5 comprehensive high schools and I believe 2 of our smaller high schools starting in March, and then the rest will be rolled out from March all the way through the summer along with training. And I just wanted to thank and commend the staff for your work on this. This is very important, and thankfully we had our student here tonight standing with his coach that saved his life. But I hope that if we ever have one of these situations that happen again at one of our school sites, we'll have an AED machine to help with that situation. So again, just wanted to thank everyone that was involved in getting these AED machines at our school sites.
Thank you. Board Member Minnick.
Thank you, President Ryan. I have a couple West Campus related announcements. One, the boys soccer team right now as we speak are in their section finals, so that's pretty cool. So we're hoping that they beat Elk Grove. Tomorrow night, both the girls varsity and boys varsity are in the playoffs and are going to be down at UOP. So if anybody wants to drive down to the University of Pacific to watch them play, it should be pretty exciting. The other thing is the West Campus Foundation, which is similar to their PTA, is having their big fundraising event coming up next Saturday, March 10th, at Turn Verin, which I hope I say it right. So it's this cool old building on 33rd and J Street. And so it's there's food and drinks and music, and it's going to be pretty cool. I went last year. There's silent auction. Last year I lost a lot of money because I bid on a lot of things. But it is a speakeasy theme, and I know that Member Vang has like a flapper outfit that she's going to wear. Is that true? Did I just make that up?
I think you made it up.
Yeah. I just made that up. But it should be pretty fun. We'll probably see a lot of decked out parents, including Superintendent Aguilar. So we'll see if he dresses up in the speakeasy theme as well. So I hope to see all you folks out there. Thanks.
Thank you, Board Member Minnick. Board Member Wu.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't often do this, but I want to share, if the camera can zoom in on this poster, I want to thank one of our facilities labor partners down in the facility shop. We brought this gentleman, Jim Eberling, to this board some 3-4 years ago, and he invented this amazing simple piece of equipment to pick up garbage cans so that it will lift into the big bins. It has saved many, many backs. I don't know if he's on leave of absence right now, but I believe he has just completed filling 500 units order, and he has 2 more units for 250 apiece for all around the country. And this district, because we hold the patent, they're getting a portion of each sale of each of this piece of equipment. So these are the types of things that when I went down to the facilities maintenance shop to see if we could encourage our people to think out of the box, and this is the result of thinking out of the box, both benefiting him and benefiting this district. So I want to congratulate Jim Eberling. I'll be visiting him in the next week or 2 at his new shop. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Wu. Our final comment, Board Member Hanson.
Well, I've been spending a lot of time at McClatchy over the last few weeks. I appreciate the district holding the event there with the mayor and the president and superintendent and my fellow board members who attended. The issues there are serious and are long-standing. We have a lot more work to do at McClatchy, and I appreciate the comments from SCTA as well. They recognize we've got work to do at McClatchy, and I look forward to their partnership in getting those issues solved. And look forward to the meeting that we're going to have there on March 12th as well. So we had a lot of folks from the community there. It's a serious issue that needs a lot more discussion, and it's not going to be solved soon. So it's something that we need to make a long-term commitment to. I visited with the student government yesterday morning to talk about the March 14th recognition of the gun violence and talk to them about what they wanted to do. And I'm really excited that the school district is working proactively with our labor partners and with our students to come up with a good educational solution to making sure students can have their voice heard on a really important issue, and we can join them in something that's educational as well. So I'm excited about that, and listening to the students and what they had to say was really inspirational. And President Ryan, you'll be glad the 6 or 7 folks who spoke up, all amazing young women leaders, of woman student body president right now at McClatchy as well. So I definitely saw the future there. And the boys better start working harder because they're a little behind right now. And lastly, I was inspired by Mr. Minnick with your talking about sports. On a good McClatchy note, their boys soccer team just beat Jesuit, which puts them in the state finals for soccer, which is super exciting because it's hard to beat the private schools. And once again, I think it's no coincidence that when we fixed the gymnasium, the women's basketball team went and become state champions. When we upgraded our track, we had a track team that went into the state finals. And now we've got a new soccer field. We've got a soccer team for the first time that's going to the state finals. When we invest in our students and do great facilities upgrades, and thanks again to facilities, the students recognize that investment and they continue to excel. So I think that was really exciting.
Thank you, Board Member Hanson. Now, it looks like we don't have any other board member comments at this time. Board committee reports, 11.7. Do we have reports on Board Facilities Committee? No? Board Budget Committee?
Yes, our next meeting will be March 22nd, and we will rotate every other budget meeting we're going to hold at a high school, and we will invite the students to come do a budget presentation and learn about how the school district does its budgeting. So our next meeting will be at the Met High School on March 22nd at 4 p.m. And then we'll rotate back to Cerna Center, then go choose another high school and move it around the district.
Thank you. Do we have any updates from the Board Governance and Policy Committee?
We do. We have our next monthly meeting next Friday at 11:30 here at Cerna. And we're actually inviting local advocacy groups to join us to help us engage in monthly policy discussion to actually build on our safe haven efforts. And what we're doing is also developing a board policy around our safe haven efforts. So we're inviting the public and our advocacy community to come out. You could RSVP to Nathaniel because we will have some, light lunch. So we want to make sure we get a head count on how many folks are coming. So that's the update from our committee.
Thank you, Board Member Vang. Finally, the Board Evaluation Committee. No updates at this time. Item 12.0, 12.1, Business and Financial Information. Enrollment and attendance report, receive that. Item 13.0, future board meeting dates and location. Our next board meeting will be held on March 15th at 4:30 p.m. for closed session, open session at 6 p.m. At this time, we are going to adjourn back into closed session.